Hello, hello. This is Taylor Ursula of That's So Pisces, and y'all, we are talking about the Virgo new moon. So let's do it. Okay, so if you've been paying attention, if you've been tuning into my videos, if you've been otherwise watching the astrological weather we've been moving through, you may know already that this is a new moon taking place the day before Mercury stations direct, and it's a new moon ruled by that Mercury. So all right. We've been in a slew of retrograde time. We've had, I think, 7 planets retrograde, right? All of the planets except for Mars have been in a retrograde moment, whether planning to station direct, planning to station retrograde. There's been a mishmash of planets slowing or moving more slowly or backtracking or trying to process. So we recently had Venus station direct. This has been a blessing as well as maybe a final reveal in terms of what that retrograde was bringing up. I saw a lot of kind of final twists taking place right in those final moments of that retrograde. And the next day we had Jupiter station retrograde. And so there's been a big shift in what we feel might be possible right now. For those of us with heavy Jupiter placements, heavy Jupiter influence, it may have felt like kind of a gut punch, a little bit of, I'm not sure what I believe in at this moment, especially after that final twist in the Venus retrograde narrative, especially because Venus has been ruling Jupiter. So whatever Venus was feeling in those final retrograde moments directly fed into what Jupiter was reflecting upon while stationing retrograde. It's a bit of a relief right now to feel Mercury finally slowing to station direct. Our Gemini third quarter moon was ruled by the Mercury cazimi that we had. And so that was both illuminating and also activating. We had a lot of information coming through. We had maybe a lot of frantic ideas surfacing. That cazimi was square to that moon, and they're both Mercury ruled. And so a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, a lot of old ideas maybe surfacing in new ways, a lot of new clarity coming through on something that we've been ruminating over, some decisions being made, some data being updated is, I believe, how I described it. So there's been a lot on our minds. There's been a lot processing. So it's lovely to see us entering into a Virgo new moon. Again, with this Mercury that is about to station direct, we are getting another planet shifting out of that retrograde place, and we're starting to put some pieces back together that we had to disassemble in this retrograde time. So what does that mean for this moon? That means that at this new moon, which is typically a time when we are planting seeds, getting clear on our intentions, deciding what we want for ourselves in that Virgo part of our charts, and then seeking to activate it, we might be a bit slower in formulating those desires. We might be stripping down to the basics and just thinking really simply about what goes there next. So maybe not plans that we're ready to act on right away, right? Mercury is still so slow. This is the slowest that Mercury is. Anytime a planet is about to station, whether it's retrograde or direct, is when that planet is moving the most slowly. So we're not quick to come to conclusions at this new moon. Again, everything else is still retrograde or working through shadow Venus right now. So we're just getting clear on maybe a starting place, maybe not coming up with the whole grand vision. Again, there have been these trines to Jupiter from Mercury and the Sun in the week leading up to this new moon, but Jupiter's newly retrograde. So if anything, we are paring things down, we're reframing what's important to us. We are eliminating disappointments, right? That's been a big Jupiter retrograde theme in the conversations to that planet so far, have been that was maybe promised to me in a certain way, that looked like it could be a certain thing. I'm realizing that some of these things did not come to fruition the way that I hoped or expected. And I need a moment to grieve that. I need a moment to honor my feelings here, but I can start to separate away what isn't working out, or what isn't, those things that we just listed. What are those things, and how can I take them off the table now so that I can think about what I can really focus on and get to work on? So the moon is having a number of conversations as it is entering this new phase. It will oppose Saturn, just like everything has been in Virgo. Okay. But then it's going to meet Mercury, its ruler. Next, it will trine Jupiter retrograde, which we just talked about in those conversations with Mercury and the Sun last week. The moon will then meet the Sun at 21 degrees of Virgo. From there, the moon is going to trine Uranus. And we've been talking about Uranus sort of being this maybe updated, seemingly out of nowhere option that kind of appears and allows us to process some of the disappointments of Jupiter, some of the disappointments that Jupiter's been revealing to us, and allowing us to maybe see a bigger picture, see a way around, see a new opportunity emerge from that place of disappointment. We also then have the moon opposing Neptune, which is certainly bringing up feelings of doubt, right? We've been disappointed recently. We're still parsing through those emotions. So Neptune's sort of reflecting this, what's the point of having another vision? What's the point of having a new dream if I run the risk of feeling disappointment again? And then we end this lunation phase with a trine to Pluto, who is back in Capricorn and is still retrograde. Stationing direct soon. We'll talk about that in our Libra season video. But the final trine to Pluto before the moon moves into Libra is a very interesting, potentially transcendent moment. Not transcendent the way Neptune wants to be, like I want to transcend the mundane and like be part of the magic and the ethereal, but much more that inner transcendence of whatever this situation is and has represented to us is sort of showing us where within ourselves we have deeper agency, we are able to overcome something maybe long, deep-seated within ourselves, getting a sense of what power is available to us now, right? And so this final meeting with Pluto at the end of this lunation feels like a way of processing everything else that we've been navigating, right? We aren't being destroyed by these disappointments. We're not being destroyed by the final twist that we experience at the end of Venus retrograde. And we're not being destroyed by Mercury's being retrograde as well. So whatever we can step out of in this lunation period, whatever we can kind of let go of and be free from, so that we can channel in our energy and power and drive toward what is going to work out next, is kind of what Pluto's inviting us to explore there. And some of this new moon lunation carries over into the next day, because we have the sun in Virgo then follow that same trine to Uranus that the moon does during its new moon phase. So everything that comes up for us in the new moon as it trines Uranus, again, maybe finding new opportunities outside of what we wanted to work out or what is currently plaguing us. The sun then kind of steps in to integrate that, to figure out where we are seeing that consciously in our world, right? The moon is sort of a feeling, it's an initiation, it's picking up on information and starting to show us it intuitively and emotionally what we're going to step into. And the sun is then following up to bring that into the daylight, bring that into consciousness, and to show us what's next and what we can move into that's going to kind of open a new door. This is also a day that Mercury stations direct, as I said, and this is Venus finishing up the series of squares that she's been having to Jupiter in Taurus. And we talked a little bit about how these previous squares took place first when Venus and Jupiter were both direct. Secondly, when Venus was retrograde and Jupiter was direct, and now the third time while Venus is direct and Jupiter is retrograde. So you can see a series of kind of interpretations happening there. Everyone's kind of in a different pose each time, even though it's the same conversation. So we might be, again, Venus now done with her retrograde and wrapping up some of the themes that came up during that time as we move through shadow. Now having this conversation with Jupiter. And last time it was about possibilities being endless, possibilities being everywhere, just all kinds of like maybe reverberations around what we could be experiencing. And now that Venus has finished this retrograde and Jupiter is now retrograde, helping us hone in on some of the smaller parts of this that we can actually work with for ourselves. This might be a time where we revisit those narratives. We get a sense of what we did want, what we did hope for, what felt possible, maybe parsing through what did not come about, what did not come to fruition, and just doing that elimination process again of, okay, this is a connection that I want to hold on to. This is a connection that I might put aside for now. I'm reflecting on what all those possibilities look like for me and how I feel about them moving forward. The ones that are still possible, the ones that have changed shape since I first envisioned them, and the ones that are just simply not taking shape at this time. Okay, let's go ahead, pull some cards. We're starting a new cycle. So we are starting with a clean slate, and we'll see what this Virgo new moon is bringing up for us amongst the tarot. See you then. Okay, let's get started. It's a new moon and a new cycle, which means we have no recap. We are starting a brand new narrative here with this Virgo new moon pull. If you'd like to follow along and pull for yourself, go ahead and check out my website in the description, and you are able to download a free PDF that has all of these moon phase spreads within it. So, all right, just to revisit, the prompts we are using today for this new moon are a cycle that begins for us now. What has been cleared away to allow for this shift? What this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. And lastly, how we can ground our ideas and intentions now. Okay. That felt like a nice place to stop. Okay. Let's take a look at what the Virgo new moon has in store for us. Cycle that begins for us now. What has been cleared away? What this cycle may look like. And excuse me, friend. How we can ground into our intentions. Okay. A new cycle of the Four of Pentacles. Okay. So, we are being cautious. We are not willing to let any of our pentacles out of our sight at this time. We are holding on to what we have now, right? If we've been talking about how we've stripped a lot away that wasn't working for us, we've released disappointment, we've moved through things that haven't worked out, we've been sort of carving away pathways that are not for us at this time. As we've discussed with Venus retrograde ruling the South Node in Libra, as we've talked about basically everyone but Mars being retrograde, we're absolutely cutting away what is not for us. And in that process, we are getting clear on kind of what we want to hold on tightly to. I also sense a slowness in this. We are not quick to spend our pentacles. We're not quick to assign ourselves a place to root down yet. Even though there is a desire for growth, even though there is a desire for more, whatever that looks like for us now, right now we are playing it kind of on the safer side. We are, again, making sure that wherever we, end up placing our tokens, we've thought about it long and hard. Wherever we end up spending our energy, whatever we end up committing to, pentacles, right? Whatever we are going to grow into down the line, we are taking our time. We are feeling things out. And the fours in all of the suits are about foundation, structure, stability before we move into the change that happens in the fives. And so we want to just make sure that our feet are planted. We want to make sure that we are grounded now. So this Virgo new moon cycle is bringing us to a place of, again, moving slowly, taking our time, not being eager to spend. And that's fine for a new moon cycle. Sometimes this card shows up when we are holding on too tight, but I think that this is an appropriate place for us to be right now, right? Again, everything's been so tumultuous. We're not trying to just jump into anything that's going to end up feeling disappointed or feeling disappointing, or both, both sides. We're trying not to just rush into something that's going to feel disappointing next time, right? So we're being cautious. What has been cleared away to allow for this shift is strength. We've been listening to our instincts. We had this come up in our last, in the Leo new moon lunation cycle. We talked about how strength was something that was calling to us, that was showing us kind of what we were working with beneath the surface. And so I love to see this come full circle. We've been doing that work. And last time I said the word, like I started off with the word tame, and then I walked it back because it didn't really feel right. And that feels kind of, patriarchal or maybe capitalistic, this idea of like taming our wild energy, right? So I walked back the word tame, and it's really just building a relationship is the phrase that I used. We've been building a relationship to our instincts, right? If we think about these wild feral eyes and we think about these soft, gentle butterflies, often we would imagine that this wild animal would, in a moment, in a heartbeat, just destroy these butterflies, destroy this piece. And that is absolutely something we need to be aware of when we're navigating our instincts, is that if we are not in relationship to them or with them, if we are treating them as separate from us, then we are setting ourselves up to consume our own peace, to destroy and sabotage our own sense of calm. And so it's not that we are not suppressing our instincts. We are involving them and integrating them into consciousness so that we are, again, in a relationship, so that we are in conversation. And that does require some slowness, some slowing down, especially in a culture that urges us to leap before we look, to kind of strike and hope that it works out for the best, or the expression, better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right? That's kind of harmful. So we've been spending the time getting to know these instincts and not banishing them or trying to destroy them, not letting them destroy us, but simply being and understanding them, bringing them into consciousness. What this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. Oh, okay. We had this come up also, and I believe this is how we ended one of our lines for our lunation phases last cycle. We were seeing that everything we were moving through at that particular stage was more deeply connected to us understanding what's driving us. And you see that these cards go in a sequence. The Chariot comes right before Strength. And we talked about how we are in a Chariot year. So all year we've been doing this work. Everything that's come up for us this year has been under the umbrella of us becoming conscious of what drives us so that we are driving ourselves forward in a direction that makes sense, becoming aware of what motivates us. And you can certainly see where these cards lend to each other's stories and sort of lead to a broader narrative. and tapping into what our willpower is. If we are out of sorts with our drive and our willpower and our agency, then getting a sense of what is out of alignment within us that's not allowing this vessel to move forward. So, what this new cycle may look like as it unfolds certainly is something beautiful to see as a sign, is that we will be tapping back into that sense of willpower. We will have that sense of drive become ignited for us. So beautiful and important with the Strength card. We need our instincts to be sorted out so that once the machine starts running again, once the car is going, we can just start to take off, right? So that we don't have to run into this trap of, oh wait, but my instincts told me to go here, and now all of a sudden I'm destroying myself, or I'm destroying my own peace, or etc. How we can ground our ideas and intentions now. It's the Two of Cups. I love seeing this show up in our weekly spreads. It's a really nice invitation to just connect with the people who are supporting us now, who are open to us, who are willing to receive us, knowing that we are being cautious, knowing that we are determining where we want to place our energy. We're not rushing to spend it. And kind of going back to the basics of the two and simply being open to connection, finding others who are in a similar place as we are, which is ready to connect and open. And something about this rainbow feels very forgiving, right? So this may mean that a relationship that maybe soured or took a strange turn during this Venus retrograde may now be able to like connect anew and create some sense of harmony, especially having moved through these very big major arcana themes or being in them at this time. This may be reconnecting with people who we're ready to start over with. This may be connecting with new people as Venus moves through this, again, this shadow phase and thinks about where I want to spend my energy and what I want to feel. So that's absolutely a beautiful invitation. Grounding our ideas by talking about them with other people, by being willing to connect with others to see what is possible. I love that the 2 is an early card. We're not anywhere near the end of the cycle where we've seen things play out. We're just ready to start. We're ready to come out of maybe a shell, that like retrograde clamshell of, chrysalis time, like let me decompose a bit. And so this is a beautiful way to absolutely see our intentions take shape. Speaking them into being, connecting them with other people outside of us helps those things start to grow. Okay, I will see you here next week, hopefully, for our first quarter moon in Sagittarius poll. Yes, we had one of those already. We get 2 of those back to back. First one happening in the Leo lunation cycle, the second one happening here in Virgo. So if you enjoyed this, please like it, please share, please subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week to talk about that 29-degree Sag moon. See you then.